On February 28, 1983, 75 million TVs and an estimated 120 million people tuned their sets to CBS. At the time, the US population was 233 million, which means that on a cold winter Monday night, over half the population was glued to the exact same channel. The day before, E.T. the Extraterrestrial made $474,000 at the box office. The day after, it made $125,000. On that Monday, it made half of that. You couldn't go to the movies. You wouldn't go to the movies. Something else was happening. So what was it? A royal wedding? The Super Bowl? A moon landing? No, it was the finale of a sitcom. This video is titled Rooting for Goliath, an essay about television, connection, and Taylor Swift. Kind of. Very briefly. David and Goliath is the ultimate underdog story, and everybody loves an underdog story. It's the basis for almost all storytelling. Culturally, everyone roots for the underdog. I root for the underdog. But this is a video about why sometimes we need Goliaths. It started out when I heard the news that Taylor Swift was getting engaged. I'm sure you heard from the Instagram stories of every single white woman that you know, and also mine. My viewership is primarily male, and by primarily, I mean it's almost all of you guys. And it's mostly 25 to 34-year-olds, so if I was a wagering man, I would have a guess to how you feel about Taylor Swift. And I get it, trust me, she's everywhere, and it can be kind of a lot. But the reason we see so much of her is because she's one of the last vestiges of monoculture. The definition of monoculture is a sociological concept of a unifying and shared cultural experience among the global or national masses. Basically, events or entertainment or celebrities that transcend niche and become ubiquitous. In my mind, they're things that you can talk about with a stranger without having to explain. And as I saw Instagram story after Instagram story by dozens of people with reactions and sketches and bits and poems, and then also people complaining about how there were too many of all of those things, something started to change within me. I'm learning to appreciate Taylor Swift, and it's got nothing to do with her music. It's because I think she might be the last Goliath left, and I think we're gonna miss them when they're gone. Act 1, 1983, when everyone was Goliath.
Attention all personnel, the war is over. MASH is going home.
When its conclusion aired in 1983, MASH had been on the air for 11 years, which is longer than the actual Korean War that it was based around took place. According to urban legend, 77% of the people in New York City flushed their toilets 3 minutes after the 2.5-hour television movie finished. The star of MASH, Alan Alda, is 89 now, and he's still working. His most recent television role was a guest star and producer credit on a Netflix adaptation of his 1981 film The Four Seasons. According to Nielsen, it was the second most watched season of television for the week of April 28, 2025. It was also nominated for an Emmy. I had also never heard of it. Its subreddit has 370 followers. I feel like every conversation I have these days is me pretending to have seen or heard of a TV show just so the other person won't explain it to me. Oh, have you watched The Golden Bachelor? Are you keeping up with Love Island? Oh, did you see they canceled Schmigadoon? Did you see they started Schmigadoon? Oh my goodness, you've got to be watching The Baldwins. Are you watching The Baldwins? Everyone's watching The Baldwins. And I'm always like, oh, no, it's on the list. It's on the list. Don't worry, it's on the list. But here's my secret. There is no list. How can there be? In 2009, there were 210 scripted television shows produced. In 2023, there were 516. When MASH first premiered in 1972, 95% of households had a television, but you were really only guaranteed 4 networks: ABC, CBS, NBC, and the recently created PBS. If you were in a major city or near one, you might get a couple other local channels, but by and large, everyone from Casey in Los Angeles to Tommy in Arkansas was pointing their face at the same stuff. So despite the fact that in its first season, MASH was the 46th most popular show of the year, that 17.4 rating that it achieved meant that it was still being watched by close to 20% of the country. The #1 show that year was All in the Family. Its average episode had a rating of 33.4, which meant that its average episode was being watched by close to a third of the country. That's more than tuned in to the finale of The Big Bang Theory, arguably the most popular sitcom of the 2010s. Did you watch the episode last night was a question that almost a third of the country could say yes to on any random Sunday morning. But is it because All in the Family is the greatest show ever? I don't know. I haven't seen it. But I do know that the only other shows airing at that time were the action adventure medical drama Emergency! Or Here We Go Again, a sitcom about a newlywed couple who move in near their ex-spouses that has a combined 0 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes or references to online. There was a very brief period where content distribution networks had reached almost every American, but content hadn't yet spread out. But things were about to change. By the end of MASH's run in 1983, cable was beginning to balloon. The amount of cable networks grew from 28 in 1980 to 79 in 1990. And that was great, for sure. Now we all had more options. ESPN came around, and you could watch sports all day. Nickelodeon was launched, and now all of a sudden there was something as a kid or a teen to watch. Your dad got to talk to his friends about the game last night, and you got to talk to your friends about the newest episode of SpongeBob or whatever, you know? More options, more niche. The balkanization of media had begun. But there were still celebrities and shows and artists that transcended these new niches. Some of the most famous people of all time were from this era. Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Seinfeld's finale was still watched by 75 million people. There were still Goliaths, but lots more Davids were beginning to pop up. But in 2025, everyone is a David. Recently, I went out to dinner with some new friends and I made a joke about the Rizzler. And I thought it was going to be a hit because the Rizzler is awesome. I'm like, everyone knows the Rizzler. And then my friends were like, the Rizzler? Who is that? I'm like, the Rizzler? American media juggernaut? He was on Jimmy Fallon, threw out a first pitch for the Mets, Boy Ward of the Costco guys. I showed them a picture and they hemmed and they hawed and were like, oh yeah, maybe I know him. It's not that I think the Rizzler is a major celebrity, but for a demo of terminally online Gen Zs in their early 20s, I felt like it was a referential slam dunk, but it wasn't. Apparently everyone's media ecosystems are that separated. A television show today is competing with not just 515 other shows, not just with a backlog of decades of worth of other shows that you can now watch at the press of a button, but also with other mediums. I mean, let's say you love the CBS hit sitcom Young Sheldon. Does that mean you watched it live when it was broadcast? Or did you watch it when it was first added to Netflix? Or did you watch it while consuming it in 30-second increments on TikTok? Nothing we consume is synchronous or universal anymore. I mean, even the internet used to have more viral memes that would appear on Ellen and hit a bunch of different demographics. But with the rise of algorithms and personalized information delivery systems, everyone has their own channel on their phone at all times. Everything you've ever wanted, you can find. Any niche that you like, it exists. Hyperpop or sea shanties, analog horror, baseball sabermetric breakdowns, short films, and Minecraft speedrunning. And I don't have to explain to you why having more options is good. But let me explain to you why having more options is bad. Okay, what is the point of art? What is the point of entertainment? There are a lot of different answers to this question, and none of them are necessarily wrong. To take a break from the stresses of life, to try and capture what it was really like to be here, or just to soothe both the creator and the consumer. But I think at its highest form, art and entertainment is about connection. And in some ways, I think the spreading out of media is good for connection. Typically, the more niche and aligned with your interests something is, the more you're gonna like it. And I'm sure all of you are in niche discords or subreddits, or you publish zines, or you and your friends are into some weird niche video game and you follow every single update. More than ever, we get to be a part of these niche little bubbles of media and art. But the price of that is that as these niche bubbles begin to pop up and proliferate, in the Venn diagram of knowledge, this big circle in the center is beginning to shrink. Something that everyone from each of these little bubbles was aware of, was conversational in, is disappearing. And that's monoculture. Act 2. Taylor Swift was born in West Reading, Pennsylvania in 1989. If today you only had access to local broadcast television in West Reading, Pennsylvania, you would have access to 106 channels running all day, every day. Which is good because compared to 1989, the average American spends both more time looking at screens and more time at home, alone. It's not a secret that social isolation and lack of connection is maybe the most pressing issue of our time. And I know that's a silly connection to make in a video that also mentions the Rizzler, but I promise it connects. People, especially young people, are hanging out less, they're sleeping together less, they're talking to strangers less. Everyone is more alone, and as headlines have pitched, every single day for the last 10 years, more divided than ever. Everyone is more divided than ever. And I don't know whether it's a symptom or a root cause, but our fractured media ecosystem is definitely a factor in this. And obviously I know everybody getting news from different sources is also a big part of it too, but that's not what this is about. There are like a million other essays that are about that. This is a video of Michael Jackson arriving in London. This is a video of Michael Jackson arriving in Tokyo. Look at all of those people mobbing him. Very different people from very different countries. In 2002, a British mom, provided adequate language skills, could connect with a Japanese teenager about Michael Jackson, their favorite albums, their least favorite. That's a shared language, and I think there are less and less examples of that. I used to do a lot of comedy shows in tiny towns in North and South Carolina. And it was pretty eye-opening how none of my references worked there that would work in Charlotte, which were also different than the ones that would work in Atlanta. Do you ever watch an NFL game and then you see an ad for a show like Shifting Gears and you're like, who watches this?
Yeah, Pop's throwing shade. Give me some Pop's.
And it's like, millions of people do. The song that topped the global charts this summer, a Billboard, for 10 weeks in a row, the statistically most popular song this summer. Can you guess what it was? It's not Espresso again. It's Ordinary by Alex Warren. Can you hum a few bars? The most watched single season of television in Netflix history is season 1 of Wednesday. Numbers 8 and 9 on the list I literally do not recognize. And it's not that there aren't occasional pieces of media that break through. Sabrina Carpenter, maybe.
Why did I go viral singing Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso song?
Why? Did you go viral singing who?
In the age of algorithms and streaming, the things that we consume are so disconnected from what everyone else is consuming. I remember being like, everyone I know is listening to Love Takes Smiles. It's the song of the frickin' summer. And then I looked it up. Less than 7 million listens on Spotify. You know Miles has more than that. It might be big in my niche, but it might not be big in yours. You and your friends might know who Drew Gooden is. Does your dad? Your dad definitely knows who Gutfeld is. Do you? It's the #1 highest rated late night talk show in the US, apparently. Even the big ones, like the Drake-Kendrick feud, which everyone my age was talking about, I still had to explain what was happening to my relatives during the halftime show. I mean, how often do you stumble across people on Instagram with like 1 million followers who you've never heard of? It's not just that there are more television channels, it's that with algorithms, everyone has their own channel now. There are millions of channels. I mean, in 1983, there were definitely still niches and subgroups and hipsters, but there also used to be some unifying middle ground, something that we could all talk about. And boy, do we need some things that we can talk about. When I was a pretentious teenager, I spent a lot of time hating on the MCU. I'd say with my voice as loudly as possible, just hoping anyone could hear. I don't like the thing that all of you guys like. I'm actually cooler than it. And it's like, all right, bro, nobody cares. I was really cool in high school, you can tell. But I remember in the build-up to Endgame, it began to win me over. Not because I thought the films dramatically improved, but because there was a palpable excitement for a movie in a way that I'd never experienced in my entire time in the US. There was a heaping cultural question that hung in the air from April 2018 to April 2019. What was gonna happen? You could ask people for multiple weeks, have you seen it? And people would have a response, even if that response was that they weren't interested in it. Everyone had heard of it, everyone knew about it. There's a phrase I love that's often attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt. Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. And I think that order of operations is probably a good way to try and live your life. It's a noble cause. But also, how do you get to talking about those ideas? You know that guy at a party who's always like, oh, nobody these days has real conversations anymore. Let's not talk about the Kardashians. Let's talk about big ideas. And it's like, dude, everyone hates you. Entertainment and pop culture is a fantastic way to get to those conversations, to scope out another person's value systems in depth. And that's what interests me the most about the finale of MASH. Not the fact that it's a good episode of television, it was, nor that it pulled off a finale in a way that a lot of television fails to, it did. Not even the fact that it remained the most watched thing on television for 27 years after it was released, even though the US population grew dramatically in that time. I don't care about any of that. What I do care about is the millions of conversations that happened the next day at water coolers and at lunch tables and in line at convenience stores and with your bank teller and between awkward teenagers trying to find anything to talk to about with their crush. There was a gimme. Connection is hard. Sometimes we need a gimme. Act 3. About a year ago, I went on a first date with a girl where we couldn't find anything to talk about. It was like pulling teeth. I remember thinking like this might be the worst date that I've ever been on. And then we both discovered that we'd watched the television show Glee, a show that I hated and still hate to this day. But that was enough of a springboard for us to launch off of. We went on more dates after that, dates that never would have happened if we hadn't both watched Glee. There's a unifying power of pop culture and of entertainment. It's not the end goal, but what a great place to start. I have a friend, a comedian in Charlotte, who met his wife on a Kevin Smith forum. Kevin Smith officiated their wedding. They've been married for 19 years. They don't talk about Kevin Smith every day, but that's how it started, and it's something. And yeah, maybe Kevin Smith is a niche thing that they love, yes, but can't we extrapolate from that and say that there's probably some value in having stuff out there that all of us either like, hate, or know of? Other than maybe the Super Bowl, how many non-political things can you think of that everyone has an opinion of, that is conversational in? And that's the case for Taylor Swift. Whether you love her or you hate her, or you have her name muted on Twitter, or you're tired of hearing EDM remixes of Love Story, or you think she's ruining football, or you're a Chargers fan and you just hate the Chiefs, or you think she's ruining the planet, or maybe you're just grateful that your daughter wants to watch football with you, you have an opinion on her. And she's at the scale where even not having an opinion on her is kind of having an opinion on her. It's nice to have something that we can calibrate off of. I've been thinking a lot about the idea of triangulation, and I can figure out who you are by finding out how you feel about Taylor Swift and Marvel movies, even if it's because you hate them. But if I don't know where those points are, if everything that you consume and love is foreign to me, then what are we supposed to connect over? And frankly, without a unifying monoculture, being niche isn't interesting anymore. I just moved to Bushwick, so I know this is a crucifiable opinion here, but wearing not being mainstream as a badge of honor isn't interesting when there's not really a mainstream to react off of. When everyone's niche, nobody is. There is no David without Goliath. We need Goliath. Even after I started to understand the appeal of Endgame, I didn't actively root for Marvel. When the superhero boom started to falter, frankly, I was a little happy. But now I kind of miss it. Not because I miss the movies, because the movies are still coming out, obviously, but because I miss everybody watching them. And I understand the irony. If the distribution avenues that helped to destroy monoculture didn't exist, you probably wouldn't be watching this video, and I probably wouldn't have created it. Obviously, there are huge advantages to there being more shows and more entertainment and more art and opportunities for expression, both for the creator and for the audience. I'm not saying as a whole whether it's a bad thing, but I don't ask people about what music or TV shows they're into anymore. It feels like a waste of time. I'm not going to know them, and I'm tired of pretending like I'm going to look into them. We got everything we wanted out of media, and in turn, we lost maybe the thing that was most important. Its ability to connect us. And it's hard for me to see it getting better. The things I watch are wildly different than the things that my brother watches, and we're on the same platforms and only a couple of years apart. Everyone is pointing their face at different stuff, and it's hard for me to see it getting any better. There's more and more content out there every day. How many more podcasts do we need? But it's not completely over. You and your grandma have both heard of Taylor Swift, and you both know when the Super Bowl is happening, and I have a feeling that even Amish communities have somehow heard espresso. Also, I'm really fascinated by the unifying culture of Gen Alpha. Their culture isn't built around long-form media or celebrities, it seems to be more so built around language. 6'7" means something to them in a connective way that maybe Harry Potter meant for millennials. I just find it interesting. But if you're thinking big media, media that connects people of multiple age groups in different demos, what can you think of? And that's why I can't root against Taylor Swift anymore. Or at least that I can acknowledge that it's fun to root against Taylor Swift in the same way it was to root against the Durant Warriors or the Brady Patriots. America loves a dynasty. And when she's gone and Marvel finally peters out, then what's left? The motto of the United States is E pluribus unum, from many one. But the country is divided on everything. We worship our different gods in different ways, and we have different values, and we vote for different parties. But for a brief period in time, the national language was media. Regardless of class or creed, we had something in common. We were all pointing our face at the same things. And what's happening is we're running out of unifying cultural experiences to talk about. We're losing fluency in our shared language. Why is everyone so divided? Why wouldn't we be? Connection is not the default state, so we have to lean into anything that makes it easier for us to get there. I'm learning to appreciate Goliath, things that transcend niche and enter the public consciousness on a massive scale, because I want to talk to you guys about it, and I want you guys to talk to your friends about it and strangers about it. I want us to all celebrate a collective, connective fabric that unifies all of us. I want us to speak our national language, cultural, conversational gimmies. So that's why, even though I wasn't crazy about the previous couple of seasons, I will watch season 5 of Stranger Things when it comes out. And it's why I think even if you don't care about football, you should watch the Super Bowl. And it's why I hope Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have a baby, and it's a big deal. And I hope that Avengers Doomsday breaks a bunch of box office records. Not because I care about any of those things, but I'm willing to pay the price of engaging with things that I don't love to have something to talk about with the people that I do. And in the words of the title for the finale of MASH, goodbye, farewell, and amen. Special thanks to my Patreons, Julian Langiotti, Ariel Jimenez, Logan Robinson, Joel Crooks, Pacifist Dan, Joan Luna, John Wallace Clark, Piano, Stephanie, Tor Lazzolini, Chelsea Hawk, Nathan Hawk, Santi, Cody Constantine, Mel, Anders Auer, Ollie, JP King, Parker Burgett, and John Howard.